The night shift at Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Station was usually quiet. Tom Baker, the lead systems operator, sipped his coffee while watching the endless stream of data flow across his screens. The year was 2157, and humanity had grown comfortable with its secret strength, hidden away from the prying eyes of the galaxy. The first alarm came at exactly 3:47 a.m. Earth Standard Time. Baker nearly spilled his coffee when all 6 primary detection arrays lit up simultaneously. He blinked twice, making sure he wasn't seeing things. The energy signatures were massive, far larger than anything they detected before. "Control, this is Baker at Station 7. He spoke into his comm unit, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "We have multiple contacts at the edge of the solar system. Energy signatures match the patterns we've been watching for." The response was immediate. "Verified. Station 7. Initiating Protocol Watchman." Across Earth and throughout the solar system, hidden facilities hummed to life. In underground bases stretching from the Mariana Trench to the Himalayan mountains, officers and crews who had trained for this moment for years began their carefully choreographed dance. High above Mars, cloaked sensors captured the first visual confirmation of the incoming fleet. The ships were massive, their hulls gleaming with a metallic purple sheen that seemed to absorb nearby starlight. They moved in perfect formation. 57 capital ships, each nearly 5 kilometers long, accompanied by hundreds of smaller vessels. In his office deep beneath Mount Cheyenne, General Marcus Stone watched the feeds with narrowed eyes. The Galactic Empire had finally found them, just as their long-range scouts had predicted they would. He pressed a button on his desk, connecting him to the Global Defense Council. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice grave but composed. "First contact protocol is now in effect. All civilian operations are to maintain normal patterns. Let them think we're just another primitive world." Across Earth's cities, life continued as usual. People went to work, children attended schools, and the morning news discussed ordinary things like weather and sports. But beneath this calm surface, humanity's real power stirred. In orbital stations that appeared to be simple communication satellites, advanced scanning equipment tracked every movement of the Imperial fleet. The data showed exactly what their intelligence had predicted. The Empire was following its standard conquest protocol, positioning ships for a show of force rather than an immediate attack. At the Lunar Observatory, Dr. Anna Wright adjusted her instruments to better analyze the incoming vessels. "Their technology hasn't changed much in the past 50 years, she noted to her assistant. "Still using the same shield configurations we detected during the Proxima Centauri incident." The Empire's ships moved closer, passing Neptune's orbit. They made no attempt to hide their approach, confident in their technological superiority. Their scans swept across the solar system, detecting Earth's visible infrastructure. A few small lunar colonies, some orbital stations, and a handful of Mars outposts. Nothing that would worry a civilization that had conquered thousands of worlds. What their scans couldn't detect were the quantum-shielded facilities hidden throughout the asteroid belt, or the dark matter-powered defense grid that could be activated with a single command. Humanity had spent generations preparing for this moment, building its strength in secret, while watching the Empire's expansion across the galaxy. In Washington, D.C., inside a deeply hidden command center, Admiral James Miller reviewed the incoming data. He had spent 30 years helping to prepare Earth's defenses, and now the moment of truth had arrived. The Empire's ships were advancing exactly as their simulations had predicted, arrogant in their assumed superiority. "Let them come," Miller said quietly to his staff. "Let them think we're helpless. We've spent a century preparing for this day." As the first day of contact drew to a close, humanity's hidden strength remained undetected. The Empire's fleet continued its approach, unaware that they were being watched by technology far beyond their understanding. Earth's first and only warning was already being prepared, but for now, patience was the order of the day. The game of deception had begun, and humanity was playing it perfectly. The Imperial flagship Eternal Glory, dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Mars orbit. Commander Reed stood on his bridge, looking at the blue planet displayed on the main screen. His lips curled into a small smile. He had overseen the conquest of dozens of worlds, and Earth looked like another easy victory. "Begin the standard scan protocol," Reed ordered, straightening his dark purple uniform. The Empire had conquered thousands of worlds using the same method: show overwhelming force, demonstrate superior technology, and demand submission. Most planets surrendered without a fight. The initial scans painted a picture that made Reed almost laugh. A few primitive space stations orbited Earth. A small colony struggled to survive on Mars. Some basic satellites circled the moon. Everything suggested a typical Class 3 civilization, barely able to reach their own solar system. "Sir," his science officer reported, "their technology level appears to match our predictions. They still use chemical rockets for most space travel. Their most advanced weapons are nuclear devices. No sign of energy shields or faster-than-light capabilities." Reed nodded, satisfied. "Prepare the demonstration fleet. 5 destroyers should be more than enough to impress these primitives." Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a command center that didn't officially exist, Admiral Miller watched the Imperial ships through advanced quantum sensors. His officers maintained perfect silence as they tracked every movement of the enemy fleet. "They're following the textbook," Miller said, allowing himself a small smile. "Just like the intelligence reports said they would." He turned to his communications officer. "How's their encryption?" "Exactly as our scouts reported, sir. We're reading everything they send. They're planning a show of force with 5 ships." In orbit, the Imperial destroyers moved into position. They were impressive vessels, each 1 kilometer long, their weapons capable of reducing cities to ash. Reed had chosen them specifically for their intimidating appearance. "Launch the diplomatic shuttle," Reed commanded. "Let's introduce ourselves to our new subjects." The shuttle descended toward New York, where the United Earth government maintained its public headquarters. As planned, Earth's visible defense forces responded exactly as a primitive civilization should, with panic and confusion. Fighter jets scrambled from nearby bases, looking outdated and clumsy compared to Imperial technology. Radar stations tracked the shuttle with obviously inferior systems. Everything suggested a civilization that was about to learn its place in the galaxy. The shuttle landed in Central Park, surrounded by hastily assembled military vehicles and nervous soldiers carrying projectile weapons. The scene was broadcast worldwide, showing humanity's apparent vulnerability to the cosmos. Inside the hidden command center, Miller watched the Imperial delegation emerge from their shuttle. "They're even using the same ceremonial armor they used on Proxima Centauri," he noted. "They haven't changed their protocols in 50 years. The Imperial diplomats, clad in gleaming armor that could deflect energy weapons, strode confidently toward the waiting Earth officials. Their translator devices activated, ready to explain humanity's new status as subjects of the Empire. "Look at their shield configurations," Dr. Wright said, monitoring the scene from her lunar base. "They're still using the same frequency patterns we detected years ago. They haven't improved anything." The lead Imperial diplomat raised his hand for silence, ready to deliver their practiced speech about Imperial power and Earth's choices: submit or face destruction. The gathered crowd fell quiet, many recording the historic moment on their primitive devices. In orbit, Reed watched with satisfaction. Everything was proceeding according to standard protocol. His sensors showed Earth's primitive satellites trying to track his ships, using technology that was centuries behind Imperial standards. What his sensors couldn't detect was the quantum grid activating around his fleet, or the dark matter-powered weapons locking onto every Imperial ship. Humanity's hidden strength remained invisible to Imperial technology, waiting for the right moment. "Send the standard terms," Reed ordered. "Let's see how quickly they surrender." As the Imperial diplomat began his speech about the Empire's great mercy in offering Earth a chance to submit peacefully, Admiral Miller pressed a single button on his console. It was time to show the Empire their first mistake. The game of deception was about to enter its second phase, and humanity was ready to surprise their overconfident visitors. While the Imperial delegation prepared to deliver their ultimatum in New York, Earth's real military command gathered in their primary base beneath the Mariana Trench. The underwater facility, known as Deep Command, stretched for miles through the ocean floor, completely invisible to Imperial scans. General Stone stood before the gathered military leaders, his face illuminated by the massive holographic display showing the positions of Imperial ships. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, "the moment we've prepared for has arrived. Our hidden fleet stands ready." The room's lighting shifted, revealing another hologram, this one showing hundreds of Earth vessels hidden throughout the solar system. These ships, powered by dark matter engines, had been invisible to the Empire's scans. They represented humanity's true power, carefully concealed for over a century. "Beta Fleet reports ready in the Kuiper Belt," a young officer announced. "Alpha Fleet maintains position behind Mars. Gamma Fleet is in position near Venus. All ships running silent with quantum shielding at full power." Dr. Wright's voice came through the secure communication channel from her lunar base. "The Empire still hasn't detected our quantum grid. Their scanning technology remains exactly as primitive as our intelligence suggested. They're using the same detection systems they developed 3 centuries ago." In orbit, Commander Reed remained completely unaware of the massive human fleet surrounding his position. His sensors showed only what Earth wanted him to see: a handful of primitive satellites and some basic space stations. He smiled at how easy this conquest would be. "Their orbital defenses are pathetic," Reed told his officers. "A single destroyer could handle their entire space force." He gestured toward Earth's visible space stations. "Look at them, still using solar panels for power. They haven't even mastered basic fusion technology." Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Miller watched Reed's ships with growing amusement. The Empire's arrogance was working in Earth's favor. Humanity's decision to hide its true capabilities had been controversial when first proposed, but now the wisdom of that choice was clear. "Show me Ghost Fleet's status," Miller ordered. On his command screen, details appeared about Earth's most advanced ships, vessels that combined human innovation with technologies far beyond what the Empire possessed. These ships, hidden in dimensional pockets throughout the solar system, represented the peak of human military power. The Ghost Fleet's flagship, Humanity's Dawn, was a masterpiece of engineering. 5 kilometers long but completely invisible to Imperial sensors, it carried weapons that could disable entire fleets without destroying them. Earth had chosen to develop defensive technology rather than focusing on pure destruction. "All Ghost Fleet vessels report ready, Admiral," his tactical officer confirmed. "Dimensional shields are holding steady. The Empire's scans are passing right through them." In New York, the Imperial diplomat was reaching the end of his scripted speech. He had explained how Earth would benefit from Imperial rule, how resistance was futile, and how submission was the only logical choice. The gathered crowd maintained their expected looks of fear and awe. "The time has come," General Stone announced in Deep Command. "Admiral Miller, the Council has voted. You have authorization to proceed with the response plan." Miller nodded, his face serious. "Signal all fleet commanders. Prepare for synchronized shield activation on my mark. Remember, this is a demonstration of strength, not a battle. No offensive actions without direct orders." Throughout the solar system, Earth's hidden ships received their commands. Crews who had trained for years in complete secrecy ran their final checks. The quantum grid hummed with power, ready to reveal just a fraction of humanity's true capabilities. "Sir," a sensor operator called out, "the Empire's delegation is about to demand Earth's surrender. Their ships are moving into bombardment positions." Exactly as predicted. Miller allowed himself a small smile. The Empire's predictability had made Earth's preparations much easier. They had practiced this scenario countless times, and every ship crew knew their role perfectly. "Let them finish their speech," Miller ordered. "Then we'll give them our answer." He looked at the tactical display, watching the Empire's ships move into their standard intimidation formation. It's time to show them why Earth chose to hide its strength for so long. The stage was set for humanity's revelation, and the Empire was about to learn a valuable lesson about judging by appearances. The Imperial diplomat finished his grand speech in Central Park with a flourish, clearly expecting the Earth officials to begin immediate surrender negotiations. The gathered crowd remained silent, their faces showing the appropriate mix of fear and awe that the Empire had seen on 1,000 worlds. "You have one standard planetary rotation to submit your surrender," the diplomat announced, his translator device making his words boom across the park. "The Empire is generous, but we do not tolerate delay." That's when Admiral Miller's voice filled the air, coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. He spoke in perfect Imperial standard, his words clear and calm. "We've been waiting for this moment for quite some time," he said. "Your Empire's expansion was predictable, lazy, even." In orbit, Commander Reed froze on his bridge. The voice wasn't coming through any communication channel. It was simply there, bypassing all Imperial communication systems. Even more shocking was the perfect use of Imperial standard language, something a primitive civilization shouldn't have known. "What's happening?" Reed demanded. "Track that transmission." "Sir," his communications officer replied, panic in his voice. "We can't find the source. It's everywhere." Miller continued speaking, his voice reaching every Imperial ship and soldier simultaneously. "Earth has known about your Empire for decades. We've studied your tactics, your technology, and your predictable patterns of conquest. We chose isolation for a very specific reason." The Imperial diplomat in Central Park looked around in confusion, his confident demeanor cracking. This wasn't following any of the standard protocols for first contact with a primitive world. "Perhaps you're wondering how I'm speaking to you right now," Miller said, a hint of amusement in his voice. "That's a very small demonstration of what humanity has achieved while choosing to remain hidden. We've been watching your Empire's expansion for a long time." In deep command, Miller stood calmly before his communication array, delivering the speech they had prepared years ago. The quantum resonance system carried his words directly to every Imperial device and translator, demonstrating technology far beyond what the Empire possessed. "Your scans show you what we want you to see," Miller explained. "Your sensors tell you what we allow them to tell you. Your mighty fleet sits in our space, surrounded by defenses you cannot detect, watched by ships you cannot see." Commander Reed's face paled as new information appeared on all his screens, information that bypassed every Imperial security system. The displays showed detailed scans of Imperial fleet movements from the past 50 years, proving Earth had been watching them long before this encounter. "We are not interested in conquest," Miller continued. "We have no desire to join your Empire or to fight your wars. Earth has chosen a different path, one of defensive readiness rather than aggressive expansion." The Imperial diplomat in Central Park tried to speak, but his translator device now only transmitted Miller's words. The demonstration of technological superiority was clear but subtle. Earth wasn't jamming their technology. They were simply using it better than the Empire could. "You have a choice to make," Miller said, his voice still calm and measured. "You can leave our solar system immediately, or we can demonstrate why we've had no need to expand beyond our borders. Your Empire's technology is impressive, but it hasn't significantly advanced in centuries. You've grown complacent." In orbit, Reed watched helplessly as his ship's sensors began showing readings that should have been impossible, massive energy signatures appearing and disappearing, suggesting power sources far beyond Imperial technology. "This is your one and only warning," Miller concluded. "Earth wishes to remain peaceful, but we are not weak. We will give you 1 hour to begin withdrawal procedures. After that, we will be forced to demonstrate our capabilities more directly." The transmission ended as smoothly as it had begun, leaving a deep silence across the Imperial fleet. On Earth, the gathered crowd in Central Park began to disperse, their earlier looks of fear replaced with quiet confidence. Commander Reed stared at his useless sensors, realizing that everything he had assumed about Earth was wrong. For the first time in his career, he faced a civilization that didn't fear the Empire's power, because they had far more power of their own. Commander Reed stood on his bridge, watching the countdown timer tick away. 55 minutes had passed since the human admiral's warning, and Reed had spent that time trying to convince himself that it was all a bluff. No pre-FTL civilization could possibly threaten the Empire's might. "Sir," his tactical officer called out, "the Earth delegation is requesting to return to the fleet. They say the humans are uncooperative." Reed straightened his uniform. "Let them run back to their primitive shelters. When the hour is up, we'll show them what happens to worlds that defy the Empire." In deep command, Admiral Miller watched the Imperial fleet's formation with calm eyes. "They're positioning for a standard intimidation barrage," he noted. "Right on schedule." "Ghost Fleet reports ready," his tactical officer confirmed. "Quantum grid is at full power. All defensive systems are synchronized." Miller nodded. "Time to show them just one card from our hand. Dr. Wright, is the pulse calibrated?" From her lunar base, Dr. Wright's voice came through clearly. "Calibrated and ready, Admiral. The pulse will affect their shields only. No permanent damage, just as planned." The Imperial fleet's hour was nearly up. Commander Reed had arranged his ships in the Empire's standard bombardment pattern, ready to demonstrate their power by destroying a few small cities. It was a tactic that had worked countless times before. "Sir," Reed's science officer suddenly called out, "I'm detecting an energy buildup on the planet's surface. I've never seen readings like this." Before Reed could respond, Miller's voice filled every Imperial ship once again. "Your time is up, Commander Reed. Since you've chosen to stay, we'll provide a small demonstration of why that was unwise." In the hidden facilities across Earth's surface, powerful quantum generators spun up to full power. The technology was far beyond anything the Empire had achieved, the result of humanity's century-long focus on defensive capabilities. Initiating demonstration pulse in 3, 2, 1. Dr. Wright's voice was professional and calm. A wave of invisible energy rippled out from Earth. To human sensors, it was beautiful, a perfect sphere of quantum disruption expanding at light speed. To Imperial sensors, it was nothing. Until it hit them. Every shield in the Imperial fleet flickered and died simultaneously. The mighty defenses that had protected Empire ships for centuries simply stopped working. Reed watched in horror as his tactical displays went dark. "Status report," he demanded. "All shields are offline, sir. We can't get them back online. The systems are intact, but something is preventing them from functioning." The pulse lasted exactly 30 seconds, half a minute of total vulnerability, during which the Empire's mighty fleet hung helpless in space. Their weapons still worked, their engines still functioned, but their impenetrable shields, the core of Imperial military superiority, were useless. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the pulse ended. Imperial shields snapped back on, their systems showing no damage. It was as if nothing had happened, except every Imperial officer and crew member knew differently. They had just witnessed technology far beyond their understanding. That, Miller's voice came through again, was a small demonstration using one of our simpler defensive systems. We could have disabled your engines, weapons, or life support just as easily. Instead, we chose to show you something simple and reversible. In deep command, Miller watched the Imperial fleet's reaction through quantum sensors that pierced every defense they had. "Your ships are undamaged, Commander Reed. Consider this a practical demonstration of why Earth chooses to remain isolated. We have no interest in conquest or destruction, only in maintaining our peace." Reed stared at the tactical display, his mind racing. The demonstration had been perfect, powerful enough to prove Earth's superiority, but restrained enough to show their discipline. His fleet of 57 capital ships had just been rendered defenseless by a single pulse from a planet they'd considered primitive. Admiral Miller, Reed finally responded, his voice notably less confident. The Empire requests time to consider its position. Miller allowed himself a small smile. You have 1 hour to begin withdrawal procedures, Commander Reed. This time, I suggest you use it wisely. The Empire had just learned an important lesson about appearances, and humanity had revealed just enough of its strength to ensure future diplomatic discussions would start on very different terms. Inside the Imperial flagship's data center, intelligence analysts worked frantically to understand what they had just witnessed. The shield-disabling pulse had shaken the Empire's confidence to its core, but it was the data now flooding their systems that truly terrified them. Sir, the chief analyst called to Commander Reed, you need to see this immediately. Reed arrived at the data center to find every screen filled with information about Earth's true capabilities. The humans were releasing their historical records, showing exactly how long they had been watching the Empire. This can't be right, Reed muttered, staring at the dates. According to this, they achieved faster-than-light travel over a century ago. The analyst nodded grimly. And they chose not to expand. Instead, they spent decades studying our expansion patterns, our technology, our tactics. Everything we know about them was wrong. More data poured in through channels the Empire couldn't block. Earth wasn't just revealing its military strength, it was showing the Empire exactly how outmatched they were. In deep command, Admiral Miller watched the Imperial fleet's reaction through quantum sensors. Send them the next data package, he ordered. Let's show them why we chose our path. The Imperial analysts received historical records showing Earth's great debate from decades ago. When humanity first achieved FTL capability, they had faced a choice: expand into the galaxy or focus on developing defensive technology. Look at this, the analyst pointed to a screen. They detected our first scout ships near Alpha Centauri 80 years ago. Instead of revealing themselves, they studied us. They learned everything about our technology while developing countermeasures we can't even understand. Reed watched as more information appeared. Earth had developed quantum shielding that made their ships invisible to Imperial sensors. They had mastered dark matter technology that the Empire's scientists had deemed impossible. Their defensive capabilities had evolved far beyond what any civilization should have achieved at their age. Their entire visible space program was a deception, another analyst reported. Those primitive satellites, they're just decoys. They're real technology. He trailed off, overwhelmed by the data showing Earth's true capabilities. Dr. Wright's voice came through the Imperial computers, explaining in perfect Imperial standard. We chose defense over expansion. We watched your empire conquer worlds through superior technology and numbers. But technology used for conquest has a weakness. It stops advancing once it's good enough to win. In his command center, Reed finally understood. The Empire had grown complacent with its technological superiority. They hadn't made any significant advances in centuries because they hadn't needed to. Earth, choosing isolation and defense, had surpassed them by focusing on innovation rather than expansion. Sir, his tactical officer called out, I'm detecting energy signatures throughout the solar system. They're dropping their stealth systems. Around the Imperial fleet, hundreds of human ships became visible. The Ghost Fleet emerged from its quantum shields, revealing vessels that dwarfed Imperial technology. Hidden bases throughout the asteroid belt decloaked, showing defensive installations that could have destroyed the Imperial fleet at any time. By the eternal stars, Reed whispered, watching as Earth revealed its true power. The ships weren't just advanced. They represented technology that the Empire's best scientists had thought impossible. Miller's voice returned to all Imperial channels. Now you understand why we warned you just once. Earth doesn't seek conflict, but we've spent a century preparing for it. Your empire expands through force because you can. We stayed hidden because we chose to. The data continued to flow, showing how Earth had helped other civilizations hide from Imperial expansion, creating a network of hidden worlds that the Empire had never detected. They had become guardians rather than conquerors. In the data center, the chief analyst turned to Reed with a pale face. "Sir, according to these specs, they could have disabled our entire fleet." The pulse demonstration. They were being gentle. Reed stared at the tactical display, watching as more human ships revealed themselves. The Empire had stumbled upon something unprecedented. A civilization that had chosen to become a silent guardian rather than a galactic conqueror. The truth about Earth was finally revealed, and the Empire would never see the galaxy the same way again. Commander Reed stood before the Imperial Council's holographic projection in his command room. His report on the Earth encounter had caused an unprecedented emergency session of the Empire's highest authority. The Council members' faces showed a mix of disbelief and concern. "You mean to tell us," the High Chancellor spoke, "that this single world could have destroyed our entire fleet, yet chose not to?" "Yes, Chancellor," Reed replied, his voice steady. "But destruction was never their goal. They demonstrated power through restraint, not force." In deep command, Admiral Miller and his staff were watching the Imperial Council's reaction through their quantum observation systems. The Empire's most secure communications were an open book to Earth's technology. "They're starting to understand," General Stone noted, standing beside Miller. "The data package is having the intended effect." The data package Earth had sent to the Empire was comprehensive. It contained not just technical specifications proving Earth's capabilities, but also an offer that had shocked the Imperial Council, a proposal for peaceful trade and cultural exchange. "Look at these readings," an Imperial scientist told the Council, her voice excited despite the formal setting. "Their quantum shield technology alone could revolutionize our ship's defensive capabilities, and they're willing to share it." Miller's voice once again filled the Imperial command room, but this time it was by their invitation. "The Empire has spent centuries expanding through force," he said. "Earth chose a different path. We offer you a chance to explore that path with us." The High Chancellor leaned forward in his projected image. "And the other worlds you've helped hide from us. The network of protected civilizations you mentioned. All of them chose the same path we did," Miller explained. "Development over expansion. Defense over conquest. We've created something stronger than an empire. We've built a community." Throughout the solar system, Earth's hidden fleet remained visible, a constant reminder of the power humanity had developed in secret. The Imperial ships looked outdated in comparison, their once impressive technology now clearly showing its age. Dr. Wright's voice joined the conversation from her lunar base. "We've prepared detailed information about how sharing technology could benefit both our civilizations. Earth doesn't want subjects or servants. We want partners." The Imperial Council members exchanged looks. Centuries of expansion had never prepared them for this situation. They had never encountered a civilization that had the power to stop them, but chose cooperation instead. "The Empire," the High Chancellor began, then paused, choosing his words carefully. "The Empire would be interested in learning more about this community you've built." In deep command, Miller smiled. The path ahead would be challenging, but this was the outcome they had hoped for. "We've already prepared a diplomatic team," he replied. "They're ready to begin discussions whenever you are." Commander Reed watched as his mighty fleet began withdrawal procedures from Earth's solar system. But this withdrawal didn't feel like a defeat. It felt like the beginning of something new. "One more thing," Miller added, his tone friendly but firm. "The Empire's expansion stops now. That's non-negotiable. The age of conquest is over. The age of cooperation begins." The High Chancellor nodded slowly. Perhaps it is time for the Empire to evolve, to learn new ways of interaction with the galaxy. Earth's hidden fleet began to cloak itself again, disappearing from Imperial sensors one ship at a time. It was a reminder of humanity's power, but also of their preference for peace over shows of force. "The stars are vast," Miller concluded, "and there's room enough for all of us to grow without conflict. Earth will help you transition to this new path, but will also stand ready to prevent any return to the old ways." As the Imperial fleet departed, humanity's warning had achieved something unprecedented. It had sparked the beginning of a galactic transformation. Earth's choice to hide its strength and reveal it with restraint had opened a door to a different future. In his command center, Reed looked one last time at the blue planet that had changed everything. The Empire had come expecting to find another conquest. Instead, they had found a teacher. The age of Imperial expansion was ending, and a new chapter in galactic history was about to begin.